I have the special privilege of the floor to speak on Dr. Soboleff.
Without objection, so ordered, Senator Dyson.
Well, I learned Saturday night that I have a reputation for grandstanding and playing with a microphone and clearing my throat inappropriately. And this is one time I hope I'm not considered to be grandstanding. I don't know how you can talk about Dr. Soboleff and come up with the right words to talk about the impact of this guy. He and I became pretty good friends and visited him several times in his trailer house out by the creek and gained a lot of wisdom from him. I lived for 10 years here on the old Presbyterian missionary boat, Princeton Hall, on which Dr. Soboleff spent several hundred days and traveled in his ministry and his influence all over Southeast, and we had that in common. We certainly had a faith in common that was important to both of us. And but what an immense repository of wisdom this man was, as balanced as I could imagine. He was very knowledgeable, he was articulate, very humble, and a servant's heart, a combination that I see rarely, and a great storyteller. He told his, I think it's his nephew who's sitting here in front of me, in the last year of his life when he was spending more time in a wheelchair and with a walker, he said, well, this is when he was over 100 years old, he said, had these legs a long time. And they were apparently wearing out their useful service life. He is responsible for much of the translation of both the Old and New Testament into the Tlingit language, and for which I think he is greatly remembered, and an immense scholar. One funny story he told me, the history of lots of Alaska is very interesting to me, and he told me that the interior Tlingits traded with the coastal Tlingits here, and they used the trail and the boat portages up the Taku River. And he said that early in contact times here, a young Tlingit tribal member traded from the white guys and got a small window. And he backpacked that thing all the way into the interior and traded it, and they'd never seen a window before. And they were just greatly engaged. And he was able to trade it for a great deal of goods. And I don't remember all, but the folks here on the coast were particularly interested in moose hide and probably copper from the interior and so on. But so the local guys there in the interior were so enamored with this window that the only structure they had that was substantial enough and honorific enough was the bathhouse. And he told me that till this day, the Tlingit word for window is eye of the bathhouse, which I thought was particularly charming. I commend his memory and his wisdom to all of us. I want to be careful here, but he said it clearly to me that most of the problems with young people in his area were bad behavior. And he said, up until the 50s, every kid knew what good behavior was. It was inculcated into them by their family and the culture around them, and that they knew that it was a shame, both to them personally, to their family, and the immediate culture around them, to have bad behavior. And he said, by and large, that has passed. The children are not growing up with a keen sense of what good and wise behavior is, and we are reaping the results of that negligence. I think there's a great deal of wisdom in that for all of us, to the degree it's true in where we travel and the people around us. Anyways, I celebrate the citation here, the in memoriam, that it is far too brief, as almost anything would, for commending this extraordinary life well lived here in Southeast.
Thank you, Senator Dyson.